if they're really escaping Guatemala, Honduras, and they're in Mexico, is it about escaping fear and persecution, or is it about getting to the United States?
Right. And let me ask you, are they more important than Syrians, Yemenis, from Danes or Czech Republic? I mean, there's other people in line doing it the right way.
Exactly. And when you have, for that population of folks, or that population that's taking advantage of the system and committing some sort of fraud, there are people in this world that really need to come to this country. They really are escaping fear and persecution. And when you clog this system up, you're delaying people that really need our help. Right.
But you, the Department of Homeland Security and ICE, you're changing the rules. Under this president, you're changing the rules. The migrants have been lawyered up, but now that they're here, on our southern border, those who are being allowed to apply for asylum, they got to stay there. You're not going to let them back into the country. In general, they're going to have to wait until they get their hearing. And then the 11 who jumped the fence because they didn't want to wait, they've been arrested. And it's not catch and release this time.
They're changing some things, but, one thing we got to remember is this president hasn't changed an awful lot. This president is simply saying you will enforce the laws on the books, which we haven't been allowed to do in a long, long time. I often say that, people ask me all the time about this president and the way he's attacking immigration enforcement. And I've said it, look, I've worked for 6 presidents. I was hired under Ronald Reagan. I've worked for 6 different presidents. None of them has done more than Donald Trump has for border security and law enforcement. This president done more for us than any president. And I've worked for 6 of them. I respect all of them. But no one's done more for border security and public safety and law enforcement than this president.
I want you to hear the counter side. I told you a lot of these caravanners have, most of from Honduras, have lawyers. Here's the lawyer complaining about the system, and they're not budging. Listen.
The message for Customs and Border Protection: stop rejecting asylum seekers who try to present themselves at the port of entry. You know what you're doing. You turn people away. You complain that they are breaking the law by entering illegally. You are breaking the law, and you are forcing them to break the law. That's why we have caravans.
You agree with that logic?
No. Look, we're a sovereign country. We have a right to decide who comes in this country and how they come in. We are following the laws. And we're not going to do it in their time frame. We're going to do it in the government's time frame. Make sure we know who these people are. Make sure they're vetted properly. Make sure they have a claim to come to this United States, a credible fear claim. So, no, we're playing by the rules. That's what you keep hearing, the rule of law, the rule of law, the rule of law. And I hear this all the time. We follow the rule of law. And that's why I had an issue with Governor Cuomo last week when he wants to call out the ICE officers, calling them, saying they're breaking the law, they're violating the Constitution. No, they're enforcing the law. If you don't like what we do, then tell Congress to change the laws. But the 20,000 men and women of ICE, who I love dearly, every one of them come to work every day. They strap a gun to their hip, leave the safety and security of their homes to defend this nation. So how dare politicians like this governor and other politicians call them cowards, call them Nazis and racists? They're enforcing laws enacted by Congress. They're doing their sworn oath. They're American heroes, and they need to be identified as such.
Tom, you're from, you said, originally New York. The governor here and Bill de Blasio, our mayor, they want to make this a sanctuary city. They want to protect these illegals. They care more about the illegals, some people say, than they do the legals. Look what's happening in California. You see cities are breaking away now. They're siding with you and not their governor. You see on the front lines what these people are really like, what the story is. You have a heart for them, I understand. But tell the American public what you see, and what's your message to the Democrats that want to support these illegals versus the legals?
There's a right way and wrong way to come to this country. We need to do it the legal way. For people who are standing in line for 5, 6 years, it's not fair to them to try to follow the laws of this country while people break the law. Sanctuary cities, I'm glad I got a few minutes, because I want to be clear to your viewers on the dangers of sanctuary cities. There's those politicians who say sanctuary cities protect the immigrant community. There's 4 reasons why that is completely opposite of reality. Number 1, a sanctuary city, when you knowingly release a public safety threat back into the public, that is a danger to the community. When you're an illegal alien in a county jail and you get released, you're going to go back to the immigrant community where you live, because that's where you victimize. So sanctuary cities put the immigrant community at greater risk of crime, because that's where the criminal alien is going to go back to. Second of all, they say that sanctuary cities protect immigrant communities again. No, what sanctuary cities does is, if I can't arrest a bad guy in a county jail, which means I'm in a county jail arresting the bad guy, they release him. My job is to go locate him and arrest him, which means I'm going into that community or that place of business where I'm going to find him, and probably others that weren't even on my radar. So what have sanctuary city policies done? They put the immigrant community at greater risk of crime. They put them at greater risk of ICE arrest. They put my officers at great risk. Rather than taking custody of a public safety threat inside of a county jail where we know we don't have weapons, now we're knocking on the door.